Greetings, this is Nathaniel Gillis coming to you once again. I'm excited to announce something to each and every one of you. After years of giving lectures and interviews, I've had countless people encourage me to launch something of my own, space where I can freely share my research, my ideas, and some of my discoveries. So, without further ado, I've decided it's time. Welcome to Symposia. This is a platform dedicated to exploring my work in necronetics as well as the broader world of the paranormal. Now, as you will see on the site, there are two tiers available for those who wish to engage. The first tier is completely free. This is offering access to compelling content and unique research insights. The second, however, is in fact a membership. This unlocks deeper access and exclusive material curated specifically for Parasymposia's most dedicated members. So, take a moment to explore the site and see what each tier includes. So on behalf of Necronetics and Parasymposia, most importantly, on behalf of Nathaniel Gillis, thank you for visiting the site.
All right. So first off, you sent me a question, didn't you? You said, for example, how does a ghost register? Ghost registers on a spike in EMF activity. Is that a new reality property or just a manipulation of the sensor readings? Okay. So let me kind of explain this. All the ghost hunting that you've seen, all the ghost busting shows, all the things where you get typical EMF spikes. It's always better to use the better equipment than those terrible, nasty old ones. I mean, they'll pick up anything, they will. People utilizing and using the EMF meter in the wrong fashion. The idea is not to walk around with your EMF meter going like this, which is they all do, you know.
Yeah.
The idea is to measure in a single location and it's stationary in that location to see if EMF rise or EMF differs in certain locations. You can take it with you into an EMF emitting field, but then you will place it there. What you're not going to be doing is wafting it left and right, because as soon as you waft it left and right, there is magnetic waves all over the damn place. So when you're going like this, you're pushing it through these waves, and every time it's hitting, that EMF meter, it's going to be starting readings, you see. But the principle of the EMF meter, now it comes about, is the fact that, they picked up initially by accident, and then people started realizing, oh, it's a ghost detector. It isn't, as you might imagine. It's not a ghost detector, but it's measuring fluctuations in the EMF. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what it does. But the process of paranormal action is delivered through microdiffusion regions on a micro scale in homes. So in homes where there's deliverable phenomena taking place, you will have a point of entrance and a point of exit. And it is those locations and the phenomena persistence of maneuvering things within our reality, which causes a gravitational distortion. It's gravity. It's a distortion in gravity. It's the movement of things. It's the materialization and dematerialization creates gravitational points, just as UFOs do when they materialize and dematerialize in given areas. You can go in there and you can get EMF readings, which leads you to utilize DT meters, which is a time displacement meter, to measure if there's any latencies. The latencies is caused by the gravitational well they leave behind on after dematerialization. So, for instance, if you've got an object, right, that suddenly disappears and is found over there, then how did it get from point A to point B? Well, in some cases, poltergeist phenomena and other things can traverse them literally in what is referred to as point A to point B movement. It's what you call a rail movement. Yeah. It's like a train track on a rail. It's a rail movement. Yeah. Or it's dematerialized and materialized. You see, so it arrives. It was originally here, and then it ends up here. Problem is that when there's not been rail movement and it is the dematerialization process, when this materializes, two things in the same space and time can't exist. It just can't, you know. Now, in just in a hole, for instance, we think, oh, there's nothing in that hole. Well, no, there's lots of things in that hole. There's EMF, there's gravity, there's light waves, there's photons. There's all sorts of things in there. So for this to appear in there, two things in space and time can't exist. So something's got to give. When something gives, it means there's a well. In other words, something has to be taken out and replaced. So when this disappears, boom, it's gone. There's a hole which is slowly absorbed by its surroundings over a period of time, which you can measure if you get there quick enough. You will measure the collapse. Now, it is that hole that's creating a gravitational well. It is the EMF meter, it's picking up the hole. Now, the holes tend to exist in areas where localized phenomena is taking place. This materialization process, the movement of items, the appearance of something in our environment, hence, if you want to say a ghost, if you want to say an apparition, then two things in space-time. So you always remember that. Two things in space-time cannot exist together. Something has to give. So for this figure to appear, something has to go. For it to appear in its place. And then when it disappears, you've got this, oh, well, hang on, we've got this hole. And this hole will eventually collapse. But it is the holes that you're picking up. It is the gravitational distortion which is causing the electromagnetic fluctuation which the EMFs are picking up. So it's not really ghost detectors, as you might imagine. In a roundabout sense, it says its gravity can cause fluctuations in an electromagnetic field spectrum of EMF. It's in outer space, it's referred to as space-time geometrics. But more localized stuff, it's called EMF moments or electromagnetic moments. So your EMF meters, because everybody kind of gets it wrong in the paranormal world of TV. They're kind of going around and not using EMF meters as they're supposed to be using them. And they're assuming that the EMF is a direct association to the apparition, the ghost, or whatever, which it isn't. It's a condition of its appearance. In other words, it has to appear within the matrix of our reality. Something with the construction of where it is going to be has to give way to form. The waveform collapses, the appearance of an apparition happens. But when that disappears, you've got this temporary void of gravity well, which, of course, this is what people are picking up on the EMF meters. Very sensitive, very high sensitive vibration detectors, which I'm going to replace. One just here and one on the bed frame as well, because of reported vibrations. I'm going to leave them as they are, as you can see. I'm going to shut the door and I'll seal it off. Okay? So that's kind of how it works in a sense of speaking. So it isn't the sensors. The sensors are doing the right job by picking up EMF. What it's not looking at and telling you is what is producing EMF. Because there's loads of different forms of EMF, GMF, and all sorts of things that you're going to pick up. It doesn't tell you the source, it just tells you the result. Well, in case what people are trying to figure out now is like, well, hang on a second, that's the result, that's the end process. What's the beginning process? Very sensitive, very high sensitive vibration detectors, which I'm going to replace. One just here and one on the bed frame as well, because of reported vibrations. I'm going to leave them as they are, as you can see. I'm going to shut the door and I'll seal it off. Okay. As you can see, two sensitive detectors there for vibration, one on the bed and one on the bed frame. It was the item that was on the bed frame which had relocated itself whilst in a locked off room, sealed, and it was that area that was adversely affected by EMF. The location of the incident was high in EMF for a duration of just 2 hours and 46 minutes approximately, and then collapsed. You can see in this next image that the item was discovered on the floor, and you can see the distance of how far that item had moved from its resting place. The affected area was very acute to where the action of the incident took place. In other words, it leaves a residue behind. The action leaves a residue behind, which obviously emits EMF for a short period of time, which was monitored approximately every 10 to 15 minutes. And the reason that'll be the result of the collapse, the gravitational well. I sealed up a room, and it's got special tape across the door. There's no access points. You have to break the seal to get in there. I've set up two alert devices for vibrations, because there've been reports of the bed moving and bed vibrating and stuff. So I've got one on the mattress, I've got one on the actual bed frame, and it goes into alert mode. So I go up there, I break the seals on the door. I'm going into a location where there's no human agencies. I took a photograph of where they were prior to me sealing up the door. Always do that first, so you know that you've got a visual record of where they were in case of movement. I go in there, and one of the vibration detectors is not on the bed frame anymore. It's come off, and it's on the floor, 7 inches away from the bed frame. And of course, there's a very acute EMF just around that bed frame and around the device, which is on the floor, probably about this big. As soon as you move out of that area, it starts to drop. You enter the area, it starts to grow. And that's at its highest point is where the action took place, right where the center was. Not where it is, right where it was. So the occurrence, did it go jump, jump, or did it just appear to drop? Either way, there's a distortion in the gravity field. The EMF meter, you can see it's picking up. It's picking up the actual, it's only this big, the area, and it lasts for probably about 2-3 hours, and it was gone. Just kept going down, 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 down. So you're talking like, it was quite high, then it was going down in cycles until it collapses, basically, comes back to normality. That is the motion of picking up with the EMF meters. So kind of, you got a bit of a better clue now of how the operation works. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a UFO, the collapse process still happens, the gravitational wells, or if it's paranormal, or it's cryptid, or it's a Fey encounter. The same process of mechanism of it works is there. So it's like when it punches through into our matrix, there's a program already laid there. It's like a program of matrix. And it says, hang on a second, if I want to appear here, that program part there's got to go. So I replace that, and you will experience this. And then on the collapse of it, with the fate collapses, you've got a void of computer programming, in the sense of speaking, where it's got to gather up again. It's got to make it. The matrix got to fill it in. So this is this gravity kind of well situation. It gets a bit complicated, but that's about the easiest way I can.
It's incredible, but it does point to, and you're using, I think that the language is changing, right? The matrix, the program, it does lean into that a little bit.
The paranormal phenomena, which is still the same source, it's delivered within the world of our physics for us to experience. And we're bound by that. So if we're having a UFO experience or alien experience or whatever you want to call these things, or paranormal experience, they're bound by those same physics. So when you break those physics down, you see the matrix through either eyes of the paranormal or the ufological. The mechanism's still there of deliverance, mechanism of deliverance, and that's kind of how that kind of works. It gets it's pretty complicated stuff, but we are getting there. There's lots of work and stuff out there which is going on, which I'm aware of, which is looking into these areas of trying to break it down. But the more they go at it, the more they start seeing this patterning, this programming, this matrix, call it whatever you want. and I'm not talking about like the movie The Matrix. I'm talking about it's a design mechanism for our reality to fit within it. We fit within it, not the other way
Mhm.
around, you know. And because we're just a small part which we're in it, it is those other areas outside of our reality, which is still within its source. So we're kind of trying to wrap our heads around of the understanding of what it all means. I mean, it's like there is easier methods of seeing these things because you got to confuse the matrix. So in other words, what you got to do is break down the process of how we experience reality. We as humans are programmed to experience the world and reality around us, but it's created within our brains to do so. If you imagine like color doesn't even exist. It's manufactured through our brains. So we can see the books behind you saying, yes, that's a red one, that's a blue one, that's a yellow one. To a B, doesn't work. To a B, it's ultraviolet or it's blacks and things like that. If you see how a bee sees, it sees
Mhm.
it through the mechanism of its own brain, and it's different to the way we see it. Same for other animals. You ask a question, well, why aren't we all seeing the same thing? If it's that color, but it ain't that
Mhm.
color to someone. So this is the problem. It's the brain. It's creating these things systematically in a human being. But when you start seeing reflections of reality, then it's easier to see through the veil. The veil gets thinner every time you look through reflected reality. The best way to describe that is psychomatiums. Okay, so it's through experiments where you set up a camera and you filming a mirror, and that mirror is reflecting off that mirror, which is reflecting reality. So
Mhm.
basically, for what you're actually seeing, you might be seeing reality there, but you're not. You're seeing a double reflection of it. And it is that through those double reflections and reflections, that phenomena is easier seen. And
What?
this is why over 65% of images or people's sightings are through mirrors, reflections in glass, through windows, all sorts of things. If you're just doing an investigation and you've got a camera and you've got two mirrors, stick the camera in front of one mirror, which is reflecting the image of another mirror of that environment. So what he's doing is you're seeing that, this, that to get to the lens of the camera. And then you'll start to realize that there's things there within that environment that you're not seeing through the construct, but you're seeing it through the psychomantium process.
That's
It's
that's deep. That's deep.
everything though. The more you tear it apart, but everything is mechanism. It's a mechanism. It's all mechanism. And we keep finding these things, and then we go, let's look at that. Oh, there's a mechanism at the end of it. Oh, right. Oh, you look at that. There's one there as well. It's all mechanism. It's all around us, you know, to the point where it's so obvious now through the
Mhm.
big scientific research programs that yes, we're living in some form of, and there's no better word really, it's some type of sentient matrix that we are designed to live within. Our reality slips right in it and is so easily controlled because the masters of the program are the ones responsible for phenomena. So basically, they can just go, oh, let's do this, let's do that. Like I said about poltergeist infestations, seems to be a managerial multitasking phenomena. Now we've got people which are discovering things. I saw one the other day. There was a TV show. It's an old bungalow, small building, one level roof, and it's old. It's hundreds of years old, but they're doing it up, and it's never had walls knocked down or anything. So they're doing it up. And they take this wall down, and in the cavity of the wall is a newspaper, and I think it's like 1940 something, and a shoe and kids' toys. And you're kind of thinking, well, how did they get in there? Because there's never been any construction. So, and there's no way into the cavity. So, how did they get in there? Well, with other cases we've done in poltergeist activity, we've realised when items have suddenly disappeared and they're just not found, is that later on, some people have decided to do up the house and knock down a wall, and they found themselves under they find these things under the floorboards or in the wall, in the cavity. And that's how resourceful this phenomenon is. It hasn't got to send it right over there or somewhere else. All it's got to do is put it a foot to your left in the wall or 3 foot down under the floorboard, and it's gone. Sometimes those get left behind in discoveries, which gives away the mechanism. It's the you want like to hide the mechanism. Items are being found that don't belong. It's just simply gone like that. And this person over here saying this isn't mine, and this person saying this isn't mine. No, that's because it's gone like this, sort of thing. So the management process is a process of the mechanism of the work and how it's working. And this is why how you can fool the poltergeist infestation type stuff by removing the apports, because the apports act like a quantum anchor. We've talked about this before. And the quantum anchors is a way to that you remember where to deliver phenomena to, because you're multitasking. I'm sending it there, I'm sending it to that house, I'm sending it there. It could be on the other side of the world, but it's multitasking because 2 points in time are string theory connected. It is quantum entanglement. So it doesn't matter about distance. Only it does to us, but it doesn't to them because it's all quantum entangled. And the thing is, when it's swapping these things around, how many things is it doing it to? When you remove the apport, temporary seizure happens. It's what refers to as poltergeist seizure. It's like, I'm confused. Where's my apport gone? Where am I delivering this phenomena to? That was me. That was my key to locate. And then suddenly you get
Wow.
suppression 3 or 4 days. I got people ringing up saying, "Have you got rid of it?" I said, "No, we just removed the apport." But it kind of learns, it develops and goes, "Oh, I'm going to have to go back to the textbook now. What's gone on? Oh, yes, okay, the apport's been moved. I'm going to have to fix this."
Right.
Phenomena is engaged.
Yeah, it's like retriangulating, right?
Yeah,
Trying to retriangulate. Okay, then it's again, that's the learning matrix we have to talk about, right? It's like, okay, what am I doing here? And it tries to pull and search around, all the methods and all of it.
it's
Okay,
that.
it's a that's a program.
Yeah,
It appears to be a program.
it is. Yeah, we can prove that now through its actions, and of course the deliverance of it. It does come back again, obviously, but that temporary pattern, recognizing like, okay, I've got 4, 5, 6 items per day happening. Suddenly you remove the apple and nothing for 3 or 4 days, and then back to normal. It goes back to delivering again. And the problem is, you see, for you, me, or anybody else when they're out and about, apports can take place in a building because there are societies out there used to tell us, oh, you've got to have a focus, a catalyst. It's a young adolescent. It's this, that, and the other. It's rubbish. No, it is absolutely incorrect. You do not need people for the poltergeist actions to take place. You can have the people removed from the location. It doesn't matter whatsoever. It can deliver under its own conditions in that environment without the aid of individuals. So the thing is that when we're out and about, how do we know that our favourite cup in the kitchen that we drink a nice cup of tea out at night or a cup of coffee isn't the apported mug? And you sat there like
That
this, you're holding it, you're interacting with it, and you've got all
yeah.
this stuff going around thinking, and then you wouldn't know. So it's really good at deliverables. Now those deliverables sometimes what happens is just out of pure accident, something gets broken. And it was like a couple in one occasion, this little ornament was moving around and he didn't think much to it. And he got angry and he ended up grabbing this and throwing it out the back door. It hit the pavement at the back of the garden and it shattered. It was a pot cat. Within an hour, that pot cat was back on the windowsill where it was, complete, fixed, complete, whatever. And they went out there to look at where it was all broken. It had gone. The thing is that wasn't the cat, the pot cat that was shattered. It was just replaced
Mhm.
again. It's got the blueprint for the apport. There we go again. It's back there. It
Yeah.
wants to. The
Wow.
system tries to correct itself.
This is awesome. This is so awesome, Steve. Like this is, I mean, forget demonology. I mean, we've already known that, right? But this is beyond, beyond, beyond. And again, this does point to a construct of reality.
Yeah.
Um, it's
It's
incredible work.
like there's even programming. It says, in case of this happens, do this.
Yes,
You know,
and that's through and through, right? Even with the aspect of the guides, right? When you guys pushed them, it went back to the program. What do I do?
you just
Okay,
went
here's
back
what
to
we have to say.
yeah. And it was just the same generic response. Do you want to carry on communications, or do you not want to? Do you want to ask questions, or do you want to carry on with having communications? But because it's already under the skin of all these people that love to have spirit guides in their lives, and yeah, they do, and they experience it, they don't want loose of it because it's already under the skin, it's got its hooks in. So they all turned
Mhm.
around and said, well, do you know what? I won't ask any more questions then. And that's it. It's like, okay. And if they turned around and said, which we never had one out of the 10 actually do that,
Mhm.
if we had one of them that turned around and said, well, you know what? I'm going to challenge my spirit guide. I know you've lied to me. I know that you don't want to ask my questions. I'm forcing you. You ask my questions, or I don't want to communicate with you. They probably would have vacated. That would have been the vacation point because the game's up, you know? But they didn't because the hooks are already in. And they all said, oh, no, I don't want to lose communications. I need my spirit guide. Well, therefore, don't ask any questions then. And that was the rule on all 10. And the research was carried out, and they were all lies. Oh, I was this person, and I worked there, and this is what I did, and this was my name, and this is how I died.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder, like, well, what was the point of the lie? Like, what's happening in the darkness you don't want us to see? Right? Like what's actually going on here? But that goes, I mean, even in the occult tradition, right? Where you put a circle of salt and the being will stay within the salt. It's like until it transcends that model of the phenomenon, and you realize, oh God, what is this? I
Mm,
don't have, right? I don't have control over this. Yeah, that's fascinating though.
it
Wow.
is. It is. Now, they had little other experiments, but not really involving the Skull team. But I was in communications with Robin, and Don was, and he was very interested in Phenomena Project and what we were doing and the experiments carried out by SCP. He was very interested because we kind of exceeded on NHI communication. They didn't. That's one thing they didn't really get into. They got to the point of manifestation. They got to the point of interference, imagery, digital details, and whatever, and visually seeing them, but not so much communications. That would have been the next stage if they carried on and hadn't shut it down. NHI were just piling in. They'd lost control. First one, then two, then six. Boom. It was that situation. And yet they were telling them, oh, yes, it's okay. Because they'd handed it over to the spirit team and their spirit team was saying, "Don't worry, don't panic. This is how to do it. This is what's good." This da 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 da. How many people were in the spirit team? Well, 13 were in the spirit team, the same number as the coven that you would have. Exactly the same process was done in the same relationship, and yet they didn't have a clue what was actually happening to them. And it's that's the problem of it. It is you've inducted seance and
Yeah.
you've just literally handed it over to them. So it was an emergency shutdown and never to go on again. But it even sent the scientists away just prior to that because they got SCP, not SCP, SPR, and numerous other scientists, academics coming from around the world. They witnessed first-hand phenomena, but the phenomena went, get rid of them. I don't want them anymore because he wants to get to the next stage and he can't do it whilst them are around. Thing is, though, that is when the panic hit. Then they
Right.
realized they'd lost control of the circle and it was an abrupt stop, an emergency abrupt stop, never to continue again. Other teams have, a few others, Advanced Skull and Phenomena Project, we did continue into the communication area, but we never, ever had the manifestation process like they have. It is the greatest study in the world that's
Yeah.
created what is called materialisms and manifestations. Nobody can top it. Not any of the experiments even currently being run at Lawrence Livermore Laboratories, National Laboratories. Even they haven't succeeded in getting past, and building upon the skull in regarding materialization and manifestation. We couldn't. Advanced Skull couldn't. They nailed
Mhm.
that absolutely because of the things that were appearing and manifesting and stuff, physical things. But it stopped before NHI communication. So what we've done is that we know that we didn't reach as much manifestation materialism. We got some. We focused on the NHI communication. That's where we kind of learned because What they were referring to is when communications got caught on recordings and stuff, they were calling it TDC, transdimensional, information being sent, communication, transdimensional communication. But TDC is about this big and it fits within transplacement, TP, which is this. It's part of it. Transplacement is whatever they're doing to anything, and including us, because we're programmed humans, in a sense of speaking, with the reality, they literally tap the source and go, okay, I want to communicate with you. You're going to hear it telepathically because it's part of it's digitally processed and it's sent to your it's like we're pieces of equipment being transplaced onto, just like the cassettes and the video recorders, and that they call it that little piece, TDC, transdimensional communication, which is really transplacement across the whole thing. We just saw the bigger picture years later and did some experiments and realized how they're doing it, the transplacement phenomena. If sometimes they're harmonic, sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's deliverable to the individual and not the person sat next to you. So we have
Mhm.
to start questioning about all sorts of things, including the recorded data, such as if you go into a haunted building and you get out a recorder and you record something and you ask a question and and you get a response, the first thing you're going to think is this building is haunted. But the
Mhm.
problematics of the experiments, when asking questions, where are you? Some of them weren't even in the same country. So when they're saying, well,
Whoa.
we're not even there, not even in the building. So now we have to even rule out the fact that does an EVP in a building, captured in a building, mean that building associated or is haunted? And that's part of the generation of the EVP. Well, even that's got to go into another equation now and start looking into that because the data we've
Mhm.
got from 6 or 7 experiments shows that they're not even there. So it's somehow intelligently through quantum mechanics, string theory, entanglement, it's communicating to your device, and yet they're not there. It's like this Akashic record thing, tapping the source sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
All the data's there, it's in a digital format in a sense of speaking. All you got to do is tap it and it's instant, tell you anything you want to know. But the problem is that in Scole, these people were saying, oh, yes, I'm a scientist. I'm a dead scientist. I'm a spirit of a scientist. I'm going to send some images. We're going to capture some images. So they did an experiment. All the images were not real images. All the images were images of images. Or
Copies.
they were already photographs in a book. St. Paul's Cathedral during the Blitz during the Second World War. That photograph was already a real photograph, but it materialized on film, but it wasn't an original photograph. There is an original photograph. It was an image of that original photograph, which was nothing to do with that process of manufacture. The copies. And this is,
Copies.
yeah, yeah, the copies, the duplicates.
What?
Yeah, they're putting things together. They're utilizing what's already in existence, then rather waste resources in creating something new.
Yes. So I've always wondered that, right? Like, even with the archetypes, like when you're interfacing with them, be it, a psychic or a seance or something, even a Ouija board for that matter, like a lot of the information is what's already known, right? It does because it doesn't, it's very resourceful, right? It's not superfluous, so it's not going to waste its time. Now, sometimes it has, right? In times past, go out there in the ether, pull out something you
Yeah.
didn't know,
Yeah.
but it doesn't want to do that if it doesn't have to.
No.
Now, I'll tell you what, just to be very transparent with you, this whole skull thing is creeping me out because the more you think about it, the more I do. It's like it was a complete setup where when you're talking to the spirit team, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, here is this. And then next thing you know, these things just start incarnating and they had no idea these things even existed. It was just a complete. So it was almost like, yeah, we're deceased scientists. We're going
Mm.
to be everything you want us to be up until that something. I know you hate the word portal. I'm not going to call it a portal, but something opens up, and now we have an access point. We've established enough contact for a certain amount of time. Now the program is installed, and now you're out of control. Now we have control.
That's
That's
exactly it.
terrifying.
It is,
It's
and you think
terrifying.
about the whole picture, but it's easily drawn you in and it's easily
Hmm.
manipulated you. It's doing a great thing. It does what it normally does. But the problem is that they even through the process of by 1995, where the experiments were coming to an end, they were developing what is referred to by the spirit team a doorway,
Mm.
and they would actually use the word doorway. And for this two-way traffic, you see. But
Mhm.
this is where they didn't, this is why Robin and his lot, there was books and things and documents and stuff put together on the skull. This is why it was left out because Robin wanted to prove that the afterlife existed. But what he got was far more. He didn't bargain for what he got at the end of it. To be honest with you, he didn't realize, didn't know, and it super exceeded what he's originally wanted to do so much that it was nothing. It wasn't even comparable to what he wanted to do. And he thought this. I can't even mention this stuff. And then basically afterwards, he settles back. He ends up with a string of illnesses and passes away. But there was hitchhiker phenomena taking place. It was tracking them back home. They were realizing that, okay, it's under our skin because they never realize you have to write protocols in when communicating with these things or dealing with them. And they actually did the opposite. They upped it. You have your hour sessions were up to 2.5 hours. They upped it and they did over 500 sessions. 500 sessions is, I mean, it was getting
It's
to the
a lot.
point where the NHI would just absorb them, in a sense of speaking, without them even knowing and willingly giving themselves to it because they thought, don't worry, the spirit team are going to protect us against the NHI. But what you don't realize is the spirit
Ta-da!
team and the NHI is the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's
That
where
is
that's where you
that
have
is
it, buddy.
so it's so
Yeah,
sinister. Dear God
yeah,
help us.
I
People
know.
don't understand.
But I hope
Like
that
the
it's
yeah, but
trying to get your head around it. I hope you've got a bit of a
yeah.
better understanding regarding EMF.
Yeah, I do. I do. And I'm growing up in evangelicalism, it's fascinating because they always use the scientific method to prove the existence of a designer. Right? There is a designer. And now I'm thinking, well, if what we're starting to experience and research in the paranormal is something that's transcending that design,
Yeah,
is that room for another designer? Or are we just going to be, you know what I mean, honest with the data? Because there's only two possibilities here in my worldview. I mean, either we're dealing with one proto-intelligence that's in, right?
yeah,
Or or there's something else that's superseding it. And I'm having discussions now with other theologians about this because again, I've studied, apologetics most of my life, and it's like, well, there's something missing here because this is not just the miraculous we're dealing with, right? Oh, it's your perception of no, 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 no.
no,
Something is in control that should not be in control according to certain worldviews, and
yes,
that's destructive.
that absolutely is, and it goes very, very deep to the point where even the process of these things that you've been seeing, or they keep calling it disclosure, which it really isn't, but all these efforts to disclose could even be at the steering wheel of even that.
Yes,
Because,
yes.
to deliver good disinformation, you've got to have a hold and understanding of the information, you know,
Mhm.
and it just controls the whole game. And we're trying to run round in the middle of it, trying to gain ahead on this, when in fact we're not, because we're looking at something thinking, oh, great, we've got a breakthrough. But what's the legitimacy of that breakthrough? Because when
Yeah,
you work out the legitimacy of the breakthrough, it's in the opposing camp. It's taking you in the wrong direction. And that's the
right.
biggest problem of this.
Yeah, the phenomenon is evolving according to our awareness of it. But what if it's controlling our awareness?
Yeah.
Right. So look, you know what I mean? It's just this lonesome dance with the wind here.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if we're ever,
phenomenal stuff.
I don't think we're ever going to get ahead of this. I think we are well out of our league, to be honest with you. of even trying to attempt it, because we can only operate within the parameters that they made for us. And that's the problem, because to tackle it, we'd have to be outside the parameters of what we what we do know and what we can do. And that doesn't exist. That's the problem. We're stuck in this reality which is formulated to fit within theirs. And that's the problem, you know.
Yeah, that's the question I was wrestling with the other night when I emailed you was, if we're trying to measure the paranormal, we're trying to measure the phenomenon with tools the phenomenon gave us.
There you have it, buddy.
It's like a snake
You are
eating its own
absolutely right.
tail.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, here I got it. Like, well, where did you get that technology? And you're
Yeah.
like, well, how if I know? I have no idea. It's
I
like,
know.
oh, okay, there you go. All right, so thank you so much for your time as always. It's a pleasure.
No
And
problem.
we're getting deeper. We're getting deeper, and I'm gonna probably go back to the interview circuit here in about a month. And I'm a changed man, brother.
Well, the thing is, all you're going to do is you're halfway there anyway. All
Yeah,
you're going to do
yeah.
is deliver upon what you've already done, just to take them the few next steps, because they've
It's a
got to
process,
realize
yeah.
the bigger picture here. We're too busy looking at the pieces as to look at the big picture.
Mhm.
And I think there's plenty for you to go at. And with these documents I'm going to send over as well, that might actually help as well, help deliverance, because it's not us,
Yeah.
not your word, our word. It's got scientists now from around the world, and they're saying the same thing from the 1940s right up to this month, so you can utilize them. Yeah.
I'm excited, sir. You have a good week, and I
And
will
you,
catch
buddy.
up with you here later, brother. Have
All
a good
right.
night.
Catch you later, mate. Ta-da, pal.